What's up, fellas? Here for the Week 2 Fantasy Football League review. To get started, we'll start with the game of the week here. The game of the week was between myself and Dakota. I was able to defeat Dakota 114 to 111. The matchup was very close going into Monday night as I was only up 7.1 points and he had Golden Tate to play. To be honest, I did not think I was going to be able to pull that off, but luckily Golden Tate, I believe, had 4 catches for 25 yards, scored 4.5 points in our league, and wasn't enough to give Dakota the win. So that puts him at 1-1 and myself at 1-1. Really needed that victory this week. Looking at my team here, my team did pretty well this week. It looks like I had 5 players in double digits. Drew Brees with 22. Devonta Freeman with 23, DeAndre Hopkins with 11, Keenan Allen with 15, and the Ravens defense got me 15. Really, I would say really just one, maybe 2 duds on the team. Brandon Cooks with 5, and obviously Jimmy Graham got me 0.6, so not very good there. Nothing to really speak of on my bench. Nobody did anything there. So if we look at the Dakota's team here, looks like he had 6 players in double digits, starting with Winston with 13, Le'Veon Bell with 11, Dez Bryant with 15, Kareem Hunt with 24. Buccaneers defense got 18, and his kicker Gostkowski got 12. Couple double-digit scores on his bench with Chris Carson, the running back for the Seahawks, with 11, and Javoris Allen with basically 19, or Buck Allen. A couple players to mention on his team. Obviously, Elliott really struggled this week. Only got him 4 points. We already discussed Tate. Le'Veon Bell only had 11. I understand he had a tough matchup this week with the Vikings, but Bell looks to be struggling a little bit this year. I think some of that likely has to do with him holding out during training camp for a new contract and not wanting to sign the franchise tag. So we'll see if he can get it together eventually. We'll figure out about that. Obviously, Kareem Hunt with 24 points, the rookie for the Chiefs. It's his second big week so far, so we'll see if he can keep things going. I think everything is trending upwards for him. It looks to be that way. So we'll move on to the next matchup here. Let's see what we got. Next up, we have David versus Philip. This wasn't a very close matchup. Philip won this one 114 to 89. We'll start by looking at David's team here. David had 7 players score in double digits. Now, none of them did amazing, but they got double digits barely. He had Dak Prescott with 16, Terrence West with 12, Mark Ingram basically had 10, Julio with 13, Demaryius with 10, Randall Cobb with 10, Texans defense with 10. Now, the one thing I want to note on his team is, for whatever reason, he did not play a kicker. He has a kicker on his bench, Phil Dawson, who got him 10 points, which is pretty decent, which still would have lost his matchup for the week, but definitely would have given him some more points. Not really sure what his strategy was there. My guess is he forgot or whatever. Not something I'm very happy about. Everybody needs to play a full lineup every week. That'll help keep the integrity of the league together, keep things competitive, so hopefully we can improve on that moving forward. On his bench, he had Forte with 11. He had Chris Thompson with 24, and I already mentioned his kicker there. No real duds for him. Greg Olsen did only get him 1.5 points. He obviously got injured during the game, so that has a lot to do with that. He will be out 6 to 8 weeks minimum. He has been placed on IR, so obviously David will need to adjust his lineup accordingly. Pick up a kicker off waivers and either move Olsen to the bench or drop him. If we look over here at Phillips' team, he had, looks like 6 players in double digits as well. Kirk Cousins with 12. Todd Gurley had a huge game, had 25. Kelvin Benjamin had 11. Coby Fleener with 11. Devonta Adams with 20. And the Cardinals defense with 11. He did have Coleman on the bench, who got 11.5. And not much else to speak of on his bench. Couple players struggled for him. Crowell with 4. and Brandon Marshall with 2. Um, Brandon Marshall looks like he could possibly be done. I mean, part of it's with that Giants offense. They're really struggling with their poor offensive line, and I'm not sure if Eli Manning has much left. He's never really been great in my opinion. I actually thought Brandon Marshall would be a solid option this year. I targeted him in all my leagues. I luckily didn't get him in any of them, but it's looking to be a tough season for him. Not really sure. Hopefully he'll be able to improve. I don't know. I don't really care. I don't own him, so, and I don't like the Giants either. So we'll see how that goes the rest of the year. Let's see, the next matchup we have is Ray and Garrett. This matchup was not close either. Garrett won this one 129-82. That moves Garrett to 2-0 on the season. He's one of the only 2 undefeated teams. And we'll start here by talking about Ray's team. Ray had 3 players in double digits. Carson Palmer with 16, Leonard Fournette with 13, and Evan Ingram with basically 13. He did have a couple duds on his team. Stephon Diggs with 4. In my mind, that has to relate to Sam Bradford not playing this week. If Bradford's in there, Diggs is still at least a wide receiver 2. If Bradford's not in there, that really bumps him down to probably wide receiver 3. Borderline flex play in our league. He had Amari Cooper with 5. I mean, the Raiders didn't struggle. Just for whatever reason, Carr was targeting Crabtree all day long, which in this matchup between these two really leaned towards Garrett because Garrett had Crabtree, and that's where the balls went when they were in the end zone. Nothing really else going on his team. Nothing to speak of on the bench. As we know, Ray has lots and lots of injuries on his team. Andrew Luck, David Johnson, Corey Coleman's out now. Danny Amendola was out this week, so rostering a lot of injured players there. Obviously, some of them you don't really have a choice because they're studs, so when they come back, you got to have them. If we look over here at Garrett's team, he had 6 players in double digits. Wilson had 15. Melvin Gordon had 17. Ajayi had 14. Michael Crabtree with 29. Travis Kelce with 20. And then Ryan Suckup with 15. Did have Roethlisberger on the bench with basically 18, so he could have got a couple more points there, putting him in the lineup. I wouldn't have done it based on their matchups either. No real duds on his team, in my opinion. Mike Wallace had a point. Pierre Garçon with 4. Christian McCaffrey with 6. McCaffrey looks to be a little too overhyped, in my opinion. He was probably a 3rd-round pick in our league, so that seems kind of high based on how he's produced so far this year. Mike Wallace looks useless. He looks like he could be done. Garçon had a tough matchup this past week. I own Garçon in another league, so I like him, but San Francisco offense just is not anything to write home about. Nothing special. Let's see what else we got here. Next matchup we have is the next undefeated team in our league. It is Michael. He is 2-0 as he defeated George, who was 0-2. Michael had 114. George had 83. And if we look at their teams here, we'll start with Michael's team. He had 5 players in double digits, starting with Cam Newton with 12, Marshawn Lynch with 11, Mike Evans with 19, Emmanuel Sanders with 21, Jason Witten with 21. He had a lot of double-digit scores on his bench as well, with James White with 14, Stafford with 13, Rex Burkhead at 12, and the Bills defense with 11. Couple players, he had a few players not do so well for him. DeMarco Murray with 3. We know he left the game with a hamstring injury. We'll see. Right now, I believe he's listed day-to-day, so we'll see if he's able to suit up Sunday as they play the Seahawks, I believe. Adam Thielen had 5. We obviously know that's related to Bradford's injury. Joe Mixon with 4.5. Hopefully they fire their offensive coordinator there in Cincinnati, so maybe they'll decide who they're going to play in the backfield instead of having 3 guys who kind of all aren't really doing anything. I believe Mixon is the best of the three, so maybe he'll get some more run under the new leadership there. I believe if they don't start improving soon or winning soon, Marvin Lewis is probably going to lose his job, in my opinion. So we'll see if they can get things taken care of there. If we look over here at Georgia's team, 5 players in double digits. Matt Ryan with 15, Frank Gore with 11, Kenny Stills with 11, Zach Ertz with 12, and the Panthers defense with 10. The only player on his bench that scored anything significant was Eli Manning, had 12. So he played the right quarterback there. Had Odell on the bench, who only got 6 points this week, basically. You know, not knowing his status for Monday night, it's kind of hard to say whether or not he should have played him or not. In a league that I have Odell, I benched him, and it worked out for me. I still lost, but I obviously made the right decision there because the guy I put in scored more than him. But, you know, given some of his players, I may have held out and hoped for the best, but you never know. I mean, it wouldn't have made a difference in his matchup here. A couple players didn't do so well for him. Doug Baldwin with 7. Austin Hooper, after his huge week 1, where he only had 2 catches but had over 100 yards and a touchdown, only had 1.7 for him. Ted Ginn with 4. Jonathan Stewart with 4. So we'll see how he manipulates his lineup moving forward here. We got 2 matchups left. The next one we got here is Phil versus Ray Sr. This was another very close matchup this week. It was a 4-point game. Ray Sr. won this one 106-102. And then if we look here, so it looks like none of them had anybody playing Monday night. But they both had guys playing Sunday night, so their matchup came down to basically Sunday night, as Phil had Aaron Rodgers and Ray Sr. had Mason Crosby. So obviously if Rodgers is scoring points, Crosby's going to get some points on the drive. You know, whether it's a field goal or extra point after Rodgers throws or hands the ball for a touchdown or runs it in himself. We'll start here by looking at Ray Sr.'s team. He had 3 players in double digits. Those players are Tom Brady with 31, top scoring quarterback this week. Definitely helped him out here. Michael Thomas had 11. J.J. Nelson had basically 21. Nothing great on his bench. Couple players with basically 10 points with Marvin Jones and Duke Johnson. Sanu had 11. Kendall Wright had 10. You know, his biggest dud on his lineup, he decided to roll with both Bears running backs, so I'm not sure if he liked the matchup, thought that would be good, or didn't really know who was going to get the carries, so just hope for the best there. Jordan Howard only got basically a point. He hurt his shoulder during the game. Tariq Cohen did pretty good considering he's a waiver pickup. Got basically 9 points there. Sean Jackson only showed up with 5. I believe Jordan Reed got hurt during the game as well. He only has 8. And not much else going on there. If we look over here at Phil's team, he had 5 players in double digits, starting with Aaron Rodgers with 19, Lamar Miller with 10, Chris Hogan with 16, Delaney Walker with 14, Jacquizz Rodgers with 13. Did have some big players on his bench, Derek Carr with 21. So he could have got a little bit more points putting Derek Carr in there over Aaron Rodgers. Not sure if I would have done that myself. Derek Carr did have a better matchup, but you just never know how it's going to play out. I mean, you draft Aaron Rodgers early, you're going to play him. Still would not have won the matchup for him there, but would have made it a little more intriguing. Had Eric Ebron on the bench, who had basically 13, and Marquise Lee on the bench, who had 11. Obviously, he could have played Marquise Lee over a couple of his receivers, or switched to flex for a running back. If he would have changed things around, he could have got some more points. I personally wouldn't have, given the players he played. You're rolling with your best players. If you lose, you lose. You don't want to get too cute making your lineups here. So that's how his team did there. Dalvin Cook got him 7 points this week. I thought he would do better. Tyreek Hill only had 7. Vikings defense struggled a little bit against Pittsburgh with only 2 points there. And then the last matchup we have here is going to be Joseph versus Dalton. Dalton won this matchup 127 to 120. So this is also another close matchup, a 7-point game here. That puts both of them at 1-1 as well. We'll start by looking at Joseph's team here. He had 7 players get double-digit points this week. His quarterback had 11. Ty Montgomery had a big week, 26 points. Gillislee with 13. Jeffrey with 19. Landry with 14. Jeremy Maclin with 11. And the kicker for Atlanta had 14 for him. Nothing going on his bench. One player suspended, one player's hurt. Everybody else was crap to bed. Jaguars defense got him -1. That really obviously hurt his team there. You would like to get double digits out of your defense. If he would have done so, that would have gave him the victory this week. And I mean, everybody else played fairly decent. You would hope to get more than 7.3 points out of McCoy. But other than that, I mean, his lineup pretty much performed, pretty well. Obviously, you hope to get a little more than 11 points out of your quarterback as well. But, not bad by his team. It's a tough loss there for him. If we look over here at Dalton's team, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. He had 7 players in double digits as well in his lineup. Mariota had 13. Carlos Hyde was 16. C.J. Anderson with 29. Martavis Bryant was 17. Gronk with 21. Devontae Parker with basically 11. Raiders defense with 10. Did have Derrick Henry on the bench who had 15. And Allen Hurns on the bench with 17. He really got lucky this week considering Jordy Nelson got him 0 points. That was probably his first-round pick, I believe, looking at his roster here. So getting 0 points at your first-round pick and still pulling out a victory is pretty nice to have. We'll see how Jordy's injury affects himself and the Packers moving forward. Some players that kind of struggled for him. Terrell Pryor only had 4 points for him. Other than that, his lineup pretty much performed pretty well there. So a good victory there, with all considering what took place there. So we will have updated power rankings. I'll have those posted on the league page here shortly. Right now, there's a 2-way tie for first and a 2-way tie for last. Garrett and Michael are in first place at 2-0, and then George and David are in last place at 0-2. Those are the 2 teams I've had in the bottom 2 of my power rankings since the beginning started, so it looks like at least I've gotten that part right so far. And then everybody else in the league is 1-1, so we're heading on to week 3 here. We did have waivers processed today. So you guys that put in claims, you know who you got, who you didn't get. Looks like Eagles defense was picked up, Carson Wentz was picked up, Funchess, Kurz, Chris Johnson, Dolphins defense, Broncos defense, Jack Doyle, Samaje Perine, and Jamal Charles. Perine went for $10 on waivers, Jack Doyle for $8, Broncos defense for $7. Everything else was a little bit less than that. A lot of players went for free, and it doesn't. Let me look at the report here. Not too many people lost out on players. I know I put a bid in for Perine. I didn't get him. Dolphins defense had a couple bids. Same with Broncos defense and Jack Doyle, but everything else was one bid. So that's how that went there. Like I said, I'll have the updated rankings on the page. The only other thing to mention is, as you guys may have seen, there was our first trade in the league this season. The trade took place between myself and Dalton. I traded away DeAndre Hopkins, Rob Kelly, and Cairo Santos, and I received Terrell Pryor, Derrick Henry, and Dan Bailey. I believe it was a pretty fair trade. I believe I gave up the best player in the deal in DeAndre Hopkins. I don't really like Pryor, but he is in a better offense than Hopkins, I also believe his quarterback is better, at least has more experience. I also believe the Redskins' defense is worse, so the Redskins are probably going to have to score more points, throw a little bit more. Texans' defense is okay, so I think they can keep games a little closer. Maybe they don't have to throw it so much. I mean, Hopkins is already leading the NFL in targets, so we'll see how that goes. Obviously, Kelly got hurt. It's not a big injury, it's just a little cartilage injury in his ribs, so he should be able to play. But they may be cautious with him, given they got two other guys who can perform. I'm obviously hoping DeMarco Murray gets hurt or tweaks his hamstring, or they decide to make a switch, because that's why I wanted Derrick Henry. And then the kickers was, I just tried to get a little extra. I like Dan Bailey. I'm a Cowboys fan, and I felt giving up the best player in the deal, I needed to get something else to kind of persuade me there. So hopefully you guys are enjoying things. I'd like to see some more trades go through. And let's keep things active, and good luck to everybody in week 3.